that mathematics and Sanskrit actually are very much similar.
The Mann Ki Baat of Prime Minister Narendra Modi is being translated every session into Sanskrit. When she was telling right now that this is a complex or complicated language, I said yes, it is complicated.
So do it.
Do it. Take it as a challenge. Sanskrit is the only language, perhaps the surviving language in the world which has maintained the Dvivachana, and that is for a purpose.
See, hearing is the best way to study a language. So actually, if I want to know myself, if I want to be myself, I need to know my culture. And to know my culture, I need to know my language. Let me explain this a little bit further.
Sanskrit is more than a language. It's a key to timeless wisdom and culture. Today we have our guest, Dr. Gauri Mahulikar and Brahmachari Ved Chaitanya ji, to share their vision and thoughts about Sanskrit. So how can we include Sanskrit as a whole language in curriculum for students? It is there. Sanskrit is there, but usually students choose just to score high marks.
See, two levels of answers are possible with this question. See, one thing is, people should feel the need to include it in their curriculum or what they want to study. Whenever I study Sanskrit, because I am from little engineering background plus Sanskrit, I study Sanskrit as a mathematical subject. There are formulas, there are options, there are objections, there are exceptions, everything comes in a formula. Now that, though it is a good thing, it is also a difficult thing. I'll tell you why. Because for some people, mathematics is very tough. Such people are going to find Sanskrit also very tough. You can't help it. Yeah. So though it is a language, generally we think that language means arts. But it has got so perfect structure, it's like an algorithm. You do like this, okay, then this, if not, if. There is a complete algorithm of Sanskrit. And that's why for computing and for computer language, etc., now Sanskrit is used, because we don't have to put efforts to do it. It is already there like that.
So now it is like Sanskrit is a complex language.
It is not a complex language. We can't say it is a complex language. And now I will tell you why it becomes a complex language. Okay. There is a method to learn a language. If I ask you a simple question, how did you learn your mother tongue? First, when we were born, when our ability to hear developed, we started hearing our parents, our grandparents, all the people coming to home, they were talking in that language. Then slowly, when the parents started to tell us, we started repeating certain words. Right? So you say, mom, 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 mom. Then the child will repeat, mom, 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 mom. Then they will ask, who is this person? This is Appa, this is Amma. Isn't it? Yeah. This is nose, this is... So you started repeating. So you heard, then you started repeating. Later on, they started to tell us to read. Then they will give you books and they will say what is written, apple. See, first of all, I will not know it is apple, because there is a picture of apple, I will say this is apple. But slowly they will tell us to focus on A, P, P, L, E, and then they say apple. Then I came to writing. Today, the way Sanskrit is taught as a language is not in this order. Today, first itself we tell them to read and write.
Read and write.
We have never heard the language. We have never tried to speak the language. Without that, if you tell me to read and write, it is going to become difficult. It is not that the language is difficult. It is that the method in which they are teaching the language, that is difficult. See, there is nothing called as easy language or difficult language. There is nothing. Because we see very complicated languages being spoken by children. If you say the language is difficult, then children should not be speaking it. Those who have no experience, no reading capacity, they should not be speaking. But we see them speaking. So it's not that the language is difficult. It is the method in which the language is taught. That may have to be thought of.
So now from India itself, even from Kerala itself, we can see many people study Spanish, Chinese, and they are just moving. So how can we make them learn Sanskrit and be here and do their own career?
The call has to be taken by the parents.
Absolutely.
The call has to be taken by the parents. The generations after generations of parenting generation, I mean, they have lost their touch with the roots of Bharat, roots of Sanskrit. Roots of Bharat, by that I mean Sanskrit, because Sanskrit is the vehicle of our culture, right? So it is the parents who need to be trained and educated first, and then they can, in their own turn, can train their wards that no, before learning Spanish, you must learn Sanskrit.
For that, there should be an urge, right? So, in this current scenario, in this modern world, when we say we should be proud of the language, people tend to think more about their benefits. Why should I learn? I am proud of myself, I am proud of whatever I am doing. But other than that, they should they should earn something.
See, people normally, especially the modern generation which is tech savvy and all that, they want to do something challenging. They don't want to do the gise-pite things, like on the well-trodden path they don't want to go. As Robert Frost says, they will have another path, and that makes all the change. In fact, for the same reason they should learn Sanskrit, because Sanskrit poses some languages. When she was telling right now that this is a complex or complicated language, I said yes, it is complicated.
So do it.
Do it. Take it as a challenge. I tell you one example. When you say, we went to the market. We means how many of you?
Maybe 2 or more?
2 or 3 or 100. In Sanskrit we will have 2 another, because there is a dvivachana, there is a dual number. Normally all languages we use only singular and plural. We don't use we too. Sanskrit is the only language, perhaps the surviving language in the world, which has maintained the dvivachana, and that is for a purpose. So when we say we go, it is not clear whether you are 2 or 3 or more. I mean, 3 and more is bahuvachana, that is plural. But 2 is a distinct number. 1, 2 and many, right? So for 2 there is another vachana, the number in Sanskrit, and that has a purpose. I will say 1 or 2 reasons for that, and maybe I will pass it on to Vedji. It has, because language, as I said, it's a cultural bonding there, and therefore it reveals the cultural contacts as well. For example, in India we have the Gurukula Parampara, okay, and the Guru and Shishya, it was not like hundreds and 500 students in a class and one teacher is blah 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 doing something and leaving the classroom. It's not like that. It was one-on-one also many times. So it is the Guru and the Shishya, they have a special bonding between each other. In fact, the very mantra which we recite here, Om Sahana Vavatu, Sahanau Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinau Adhitamastu, Ma Vidvishavahai, it talks about dual number, dvivachana, and this is about a Guru and Shishya. Because we have this specific relation of Guru Shishya, we have developed a dvivachana in the language. Another reason is, we have the Yajna Parampara. The ritual context also is very rich in Bharat, and we have the whole Kalpa, Vedanga for that, and there no Yajna is complete only by Yajamana performing it. There has to be Yajamana Patni. And if the Patni is not there, if we know of Ramayana, Rama performed Ashwamedha by having Sita Mai's golden Vigraha besides him, right? So Yajamana Patni has to be there. So this is again another reason for the Dvivachana. And there are some more. I will leave it to Vedji.
No, see, the entire universe is in the form of 2. They say if we go to a little bit of philosophy also, the entire creation cannot start without 2. If you speak in Advaita Vedanta, Brahman alone is real. If there is Brahman alone, creation is not possible. Brahman alone cannot create. It doesn't have capacity to create. Unless we posit a power called as Maya. In Sankhya also, they will speak of 2 things. Purusha and Prakriti. Whether they call it Pradhana, that's okay. But Purusha and Prakriti, 2 things have to be there. Now for Sankhya's, both are absolutely real. For Vedanta only Brahman is real, Maya is not. Let us not go there. But the point is, unless there is 2, the creation cannot start. Now the creation that has started with 2 will always have two things in the entire creation. Because what is there in the cause will always be there in the effect. So everything of the world has two aspects. One, the aspect that we see, and another aspect that we cannot see but which is the substratum. So the entire universe also is in the form of two. And Sanskrit being the perfect language to discuss philosophy and spirituality, so to say, it necessarily should have this dvivachana which is separate. Why? Because if you say from singular you directly jump to plural, it will be wrong. According to the philosophy, it will be wrong. And therefore, I think Sanskrit, keeps that dvivachana as an extra number which is not there in all other things. One more point I think I want to add to the previous thing that Gauriji was mentioning, and that you also asked, how can we make the youngsters take the language of Sanskrit to study rather than taking Spanish or German or other languages. As she said, it depends on the parents. Yes, true. It also depends on the youngsters. And I will tell you one very simple thing about youngsters. As Gauriji was also mentioning, they like to do something challenging. If you remember when we were growing up, English was not the language that everybody was talking in. So to learn English and to become, so to say, expert in that was a different thing to do. And therefore, there are 5 friends who are talking and suddenly one person comes and talks in English. We suddenly used to look like, oh my God, he knows English. And we were all like, we don't know. And we used to say, fad English. He speaks fad. He just speaks like this. I tell you, now going forward, Sanskrit is going to be that. When everybody is talking in English, one guy suddenly will, or one girl suddenly will be standing out because he or she can talk in Sanskrit.
In Bangalore, in the metro, they have done this experiment.
That suddenly if somebody
there is a group of students. They are all from Sanskrit Bharati, of course, trained by them. But suddenly, out of nothing, out of nowhere, they would come and talk to each other in Sanskrit, and everybody will, she's speaking Sanskrit. Oh, he is speaking in Sanskrit, like that. So that is going to be the future challenge now.
And I tell you, we don't have to do much about it. See, it's a natural cycle of creation. See, things that 15 years back were normalized are today what we call as special. Things that are normalized today will become special in the future. And it is other way also. What was special in the past is normalized today. And what is special today will become normalized. So if today Sanskrit is a special thing, see, it is a fact. It's for sure it is going to happen that in future it will become normalized. So it's not that we have to do something extraordinary. We just have to keep pushing. And as I said, it is not for, see, this is another thing. It's not that we need to preserve the language for language. We are not doing any service to the language. We are doing service to ourselves. We have to understand that if I learn Sanskrit is not going to get anything. But I am going to get something. This one thing should be very clear in our mind when we say that we are propagating Sanskrit, not for Sanskrit. We are propagating Sanskrit for ourselves.
So we were sharing that Sanskrit, we are learning Sanskrit for ourselves. So it's there. You were saying it's there around our society. Where we can find Sanskrit?
If it is already there, it is everywhere. But I will tell you. See, now we have everything on social media. We have everything online. There are so many things of Sanskrit which are available online. Today we have lectures online, we have courses online, we have websites, and tremendous work has happened, in this regard overall. And no one person can claim that they have done this. Say for example, IIT, Kharagpur and all these Kanpur and all these people have come up with Gita super site, Upanishad super site, Ramcharitmanas. All these super sites are there where you can study the original scripture with the translation, with the commentaries, Sanskrit commentaries. The content is available. Ashtadhyayi.com, an unbelievable website which covers every aspect of grammar possible on the website. Everything is there. We have so many courses in Chinmay International Foundation itself. We have Easy Sanskrit Level 1, Easy Sanskrit Level 2, and then advanced Sanskrit, where these are very well structured online courses where it starts with very basic. For example, how to read and write and how to pronounce. It starts from there. From the alphabets onwards, we start from there, and slowly concepts of grammar are introduced, vocabulary is introduced, and we have videos, we have PDF content, we have questionnaires based on that. There is an online group discussion that happens. So, lot of ways are there available to all of us, if not anywhere else, online. This is not to say that in different cities and villages it is not there. Of course, there are so many teachers and so many classes etc. are happening, but I am saying on online platform itself, so much is available.
Yeah, and we have like children's rhymes also.
Okay.
The jingles and the rhymes, they are also in Sanskrit.
Okay.
Not only that, our Doordarshan, the Delhi Doordarshan, has every month a competition of translating some Hindi song, old song, into Sanskrit and getting it sung in the same tune.
Okay.
And there are so many entries, you won't believe. So this has become like, singing the old Hindi songs translated into Sanskrit in the same tune, or Marathi song in the same tune. That has become a fashion now. So many of my students have started doing this. They have an orchestra, they have a band. There are so many Sanskrit dramas being staged even now. Like Shakuntala, Karanabharam, Urubhangam. So many dramas, old dramas also. And new dramas are being written by new people. So this is all, what he was saying earlier. It is not just spiritual but secular. These are all the secular aspects of that. If, the language is surviving, the main indication of that is the continuous growth of literature in that language. That literature need not be restricted to religion or philosophy or only high type of literature like ornamental language. It can be periodicals, it can be newspapers, it can be news. The Man Ki Baat of Prime Minister Narendra Modi is being translated every session into Sanskrit. So all these different sessions, there are street dramas, Pathanatya. You name a genre of literature and everything is available in Sanskrit. That itself talks of it as a surviving language, a living language. It is not, you never mentioned it, but people say it is a dead language.
Exactly.
I say for dead, the Sanskrit word is mrita. I always put an avagraha behind that. It is amrita. It is eternal language. No language will die like this. The language which has made us survive for thousands and thousands of years, how can it die like that?
So,
And that itself becomes a medium for us to learn. I always remember in childhood when we used to have school at 7 o'clock, and my school was right next to my house. So I used to leave 2 minutes before the bell rings. My cue of going to school was Sanskrit news on All India Radio. It used to be 6:55 and they will start. Iyam Akashvani. Samskriti Vartaha Shruyanta. Pravachakaha Baldevanna Sagara. The same person, so well known in that field. And I used to listen to that Sanskrit. Not that I liked the language or I was understanding anything, but we knew, no? So when he is saying Manmohan Singh, we know he is talking about Manmohan Singh. He will mention some of the states where something has happened. We at least know that. But Sanskrit we started hearing. I remember later on also when I was in engineering, All India Radio came up with a website. And I used to go every night and listen to that 5 minutes news. Because that's the best way you can do. By the time I was done with the newspaper and news channels, I didn't want to go to any of them for. But this 5-minute news in Sanskrit, 2 things used to happen. One, I will know what exactly has happened in Bharat today. And second thing, Sanskrit, I will keep hearing. See, hearing is the best way to study a language. And therefore, when you say what are the avenues for people to study, one of the best avenues to study is to keep listening. So all the things that Gauriji was mentioning, that there are street dramas and there are stage dramas and there are songs in Sanskrit. Wonderful ways of making the language appealing to the young generation. And I think if that happens, everything else will fall correctly in its place. It's not something that we have to do going out of the way, but it will automatically happen.
So as a common person, as a modern person, how this language is connected with me, for the people around me?
You see, language carries culture. Just one thing that Gauriji had mentioned, that language is the vehicle for culture. And my culture is me.
Okay.
It's not that I am dependent on my culture, I am what my culture is. So actually, if I want to know myself, if I want to be myself, I need to know my culture. And to know my culture, I need to know my language. Let me explain this a little bit further. Often people ask this question, and I always give this one example that has stayed with me, which was taught to me by my guru, that when you say language carries the culture, see the difference in the language and you will see the difference in their culture. We have English language which has come from West, and we have Sanskrit language which has originated from the East. Now in English language, we have first person, that is I, second person, that is you, third person, he, she, it. So first person is me, then you, then third person. Now in Sanskrit, if you translate first person in Sanskrit, it will become Prathama Purusha. First Prathama, person Purusha. In Sanskrit, Prathama Purusha is not me. Prathama Purusha is he, she, it, they. Second person is called Madhyama Purusha in Sanskrit. And first person is called Uttama Purusha. And the entire language works like third person is taken into account first, then the second person, last is me. Even when we study Sanskrit grammar, Pathati Patata Patanti, Pathasi Patata Patata, Pathami Patava Patama. Even in language, the order in which it is taught is the third person is taught first. Why? Because see the difference in the culture. In the West, the situation, the environment and the climate is very challenging. It is a matter of survival for them. And therefore, whenever they got anything, their first instinct was for me. Then who is there in front? For them. Last they will think about is others. It's not a bad thing or anything. Please do not think that I am saying negative things. No, but see the culture, how it is developed. Whereas in the East, if you see, the climate and everything is so conducive that we have everything in plenty. We had grains in plenty, we had gold in plenty, we had water in plenty, sunlight in plenty, everything in plenty. Now when everything is available in plenty, my first instinct is to give to somebody who doesn't have it. Then to give it to somebody who is in front of me but probably has less of it. Finally, I will have it. In our house, mother who cooks eats the last. Why? Because that is the culture. It's not that I have to do something else to get, that is a culture that we follow. So, why should I study Sanskrit? Because that is the only way I can understand my culture. And I am saying by extension, my regional languages also. Sanskrit, yes. And then all the other regional languages that we have, Marathi, Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Bengali, all these are what you can say as offshoots of Sanskrit. The more I study these languages, more I will understand my culture. Right? Very simple, we dream in our mother tongue. We think in our mother tongue. That drives our culture. So, it is very important for me to know my language. And by language, I mean my mother tongue and my grandmother tongue. By grandmother tongue, I mean Sanskrit. Because Sanskrit is the mother of all Indian languages. And whatever be your mother tongue, grandmother tongue is Sanskrit. And we all know we have special love for our grandmother, probably more than our mother. So I think that is why we should study Sanskrit.
Taking the same thread ahead, it's a grandmother language. Sanskrit is grandmother. I know Sanskrit, then it is easy for me to learn all other Indian languages. Now I am in Kerala for last few years. Now all around I hear Malayalam, and Malayalam they say is rich in Sanskrit. Some 70% words in Malayalam are borrowed from Sanskrit. I talk my native language is Kannada and then Marathi. They also have 60-70% of these Sanskrit words. So Tadbhava, Tatsama, borrowed from and little bit modified, are the same as they are. Now, if I am transported from this place to another place, and if I want to learn that language, if I know Sanskrit, then I can at least understand a few words from that other language, and then 2 plus 2 I join, and then I can make sense out of it.
Yeah.
That is for the Indian languages. But I tell you, my personal experience, when I enrolled myself to learn German, I stood first in the class of all youngsters. I was 40 then, and all others were youngsters, some 20, 22. They were going abroad for some study and all, and they wanted to have the working knowledge of German. But I could understand it more perfectly because one thing is grammar. German also had accusative, dative, these cases. So that made me very familiar with that. And if you know the grammar structure of one language, you can easily relate it and extend it. Atidesha it is called. Atidesha, extension to other languages. So it's not only helpful in learning Indian regional languages, Sanskrit also helps you to learn other foreign languages. In fact, I may tell you, if you don't know, Sanskrit was once upon a time the link language for the traders, especially for the Southeast Asian countries. That is the reason why even now in Malaysia, in Cambodia, in we call Suvarnadvipa and Yavadvipa, Java, Sumatra and all, why there is so much of Indian culture? Number one, the rulers there went from India. That is one. All the kings are named like Rama king, the Vijaya dynasty, the Rama dynasty and all that. The second is the traders, the monks, the pilgrims. They all carried our language whenever they went there on pilgrimage or for trading, and that's how Sanskrit got rooted. Sanskrit was a link language.
Think about Sanskrit is every single letter or alphabet or sound is mantra.
Even the inanimate, the jada thing like the raja, the sand, the sikata, that knows how to come together and when to get dispersed. Why can't human minds do that?
So I always say, why are you asking what is the scientific proof? My simple logic is, do it yourself, tell me whether it works or not. Because the best proof is my own experience.
So you're from an engineering background. So how can we connect engineering and science?
Oh, that's how I survived.
Very important I feel, because it is a very structured grammatical language, it is the perfect language for coding.
Once you do engineering, you can do anything. And second thing, once you do engineering, you want to do everything other than engineering.
Other than engineering.